Prejudice motivated crime for Victoria Police is what we call an aggravating factor. So it appears in the Sentencing Act. Any crime can be a prejudice motivated crime. The primary motivation, either partly or wholly, for the offender were that the person against whom that crime was committed belonged to a particular group that the offender thought they belonged to. So they didn't necessarily have to belong to that group, but the offender had some belief that they belonged to either a particular ethnic group or a particular religious group. So Victoria Police, in dealing with prejudice motivated crime, we record the crime and we also then collect evidence of what that prejudicial aspect may be. So the crime is reported as any crime such as an assault, but there may be an aspect of prejudice within that assault or the robbery, that the person uses racial slurs or they remove a type of religious headdress whilst they're committing the assault and accuse them of being, belonging to a particular terrorist organisation or something along those lines. So that aspect of that prejudice appears within that crime. We then gather the evidence as we would do for a normal crime and deal with that investigation. Once we gather the evidence and we make sure that we collect the evidence of the prejudice side as well, we can put to the court, if we have the offender, that because of the prejudice motivated aspect of that, the punishment under the Sentencing Act needs to be looked at. Where a normal punishment for an assault would be A, with the aggravating factor of a prejudice motivated assault, then the magistrate or the judge has to look at that in terms of the Sentencing Act and potentially increase the sentence. So there's also an aspect around this of things that aren't quite to the threshold of a crime. So we will take reports of what we call a prejudice motivated incident. That incident could be some form of abuse. Now, it's not to say that it doesn't fit the threshold of abusive language or something along those lines, but in a case where a person is walking down the street and they hear something that's abusive, we sort of tend to look at that as a prejudice motivated incident. Now, that incident we need to know about because, as we can discuss maybe a little bit later, the need to understand what's going on in the community allows us to actually deal with or track trends and make sure that our resourcing is appropriate for the area. And that prejudice motivated incident, as I said, may not hit the threshold for a crime, but we still want to record it. We still want to understand what's going on in the community because it may be symptomatic of a larger problem that would result in crimes such as graffiti, prejudice motivated crime against particular religious establishments, which we've seen in the past. We are absolutely committed to making sure that the community, and to whichever community people identify with, have a trust and confidence in Victoria Police that anything that they come to us with will be treated appropriately. That need to approach your local police can be daunting for people. We understand that. We like to get our people to understand that, whilst they're busy with other jobs, the person that's standing in front of them with the issue, it may be their first contact with police, and it can be very daunting. So we want the community to understand that they need to inform us about what's going on so we can then make sure that we get the appropriate response into their community, that we're not looking at individual incidents and then saying, well, it's just a one-off type of incident. The more information we have, the more we can get a better picture of what's happening in society, so we can provide support, reassurance and confidence that the police are there to work for the community, because we are part of the community too. It's the Peelian principles, if you like, that we police with the permission of the community.
Can you please explain the training process that police officers undertake to be able to effectively collect prejudice-motivated incidents?
So the training starts at the academy, obviously, with the recruits there. Now, the recruits get specific lessons on prejudice-motivated crime. So it is actually covered as a topic in their training, which many other topics are covered. But throughout their training, they're also given training around how to appropriately respond to people that are reporting matters to them. And by that, I'm talking about issues of unconscious bias that may be present in our own people, to try and think about the victim, that victim-centric policing that's so important, to actually make sure that our service delivery is absolutely top-notch. And that's what's taught to them in the academy, around the need to support the victim, the need to understand from the point of view of the person that is reporting whatever it is that they're reporting to us, that the empathy and the need to listen to and police appropriately in terms of the service delivery that we're providing. Also, that doesn't just stop at the academy. So we, Priority Communities Division, which we have our focus on making sure there is appropriate policing response to our more vulnerable communities. We have a number of different priority communities, and they are the Aboriginal community, the community of people who have a disability, mental health. We have a youth portfolio, we have a seniors portfolio, we have a multicultural portfolio, an LGBTIQ portfolio, and a human rights portfolio. And our job is to try and provide the appropriate level of information to the frontline police so that they are sufficiently educated, and through a number of different programs, that education is ongoing. It's not simply in the academy and we stop training when we get out. So just rolling out, for example, very soon there will be cultural awareness for the Aboriginal community, which every frontline member will have to undertake. That will provide them with some context around issues that might be in that particular vulnerable community. And that is driven by the need for police to understand that there are certain responses that the community needs to appropriately police and provide really good service delivery. So to take you back to that, we publish a lot of material. We have a hub which has fact sheets for the different communities. So if you're looking for information on the LGBTIQ community, where to go, who the key stakeholders are, who the support services are, those sorts of things, we're constantly trying to reinforce that with Frontline through working with the training, frontline policing training, as well as training regions where they have a regional training officer, and working with them on human rights and all of the aspects around that.